Hey, Amber. So
Hello.
great to have some time to chat together today. How are you? How's your world?
Um, my world is progressing nicely. I will say that. It's nice to talk with you again as well.
We had some very astonishing previous conversations that inspired a broad array of creative and insight activity on my end, including a couple of my YouTube recordings and also yesterday, I published an essay that I think was born, the ideas for it were born during our first conversation, which was so amazing to me. Yeah, my essay, which is practically book length, called "The Umbilical Disaster" that I published yesterday on Medium.
I look forward to reading that. I just started it. I wondered when I saw that title because I resonated.
Yeah, broken connections turn out to
Hmm.
be an important aspect of how we came to know each other.
Mm, that
I
resonates on another level, but that's
yeah,
another
yeah.
time.
Feel free to
Yeah.
share anything about that, if you
That's
care to.
later.
Okay, sure. So we met. We'd been friends on a social network for a while, and we met when I saw some posts from you that implied that you had suffered a very severe injury. Perhaps you'd like to say something about what happened to you.
Um, yeah, so I was um driving home from work, and so I'm 38, um healthy, fit person, independent, and life is going on as expected, nothing out of the ordinary. Well, no, there was some signs. But anyways, I go to work, and on my way home I was on 95, I-95 in Jacksonville, which is a highway. Um, and the traffic around me just came to a dead halt. And I remember thinking, I had enough time to think, uh-oh, I really hope the person behind me is paying attention. Um, and that was the last thing I remember. And I woke up a few hours later, coming out of the ICU. I was being woken up from spinal surgery. So apparently, the person behind me was drunk. They were not paying attention, and they rammed their truck into the back of my car, and I fractured a few ribs. I had a small brain bleed, and I severed my spinal cord. Not completely, it was a burst fracture. So the bones burst and went into the spinal cord, and it left me paralyzed from the chest down. Um, and a lot of people don't know this, but being paralyzed isn't just about not being able to walk. Your spinal cord sends signals to all kinds of systems in your body. So when it comes to those systems, the signals being interrupted, it's your immune system, it's your bowel, it's your bladder, it's everything. I mean, that's how we communicate with the world around us, and the world around us communicates to us. So it's not just losing the ability to walk.
Hmm.
And that's where we are. So in the process of, I'm very much still in the process of adapting to that new identity. I have not fully embodied that identity yet. That was in November.
Wow. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing about that.
Of course.
This is what led, I think, when I became aware of what had happened in your life, I reached out to you. We had not had any direct communication prior to that. And part of why I was interested in speaking with you is that I suffered a debilitating injury at first in 2006 that kept me essentially bedridden for about 2 years, and then again in 2009, which kept me trapped in my house for almost 10 years.
Wow. I haven't asked you about that, actually.
Yeah, so it's a cryptic injury. The doctors have no idea what the problem is. They don't really believe my descriptions of what I experience. It seems to be a muscle tissue injury related to where the two muscles, the sort of bilateral musculature of my body is joined in my deep abdomen. It's a very strange and painful situation. When it, when it was torn, it was just like, unlike most injuries, which tend to get better over time, this thing would just get that massively worse if I even injured it modestly. So anything like shock that you might feel, for example, if you stamped your foot a little bit, or if you stubbed your toe or your foot, would just cause a cascade of ongoing injury for months on end. And I went through a lot of devastating experiences with that. Although, I did fairly well with it, all things considered, for the 9 years that I was stuck in my house until around maybe late 2016, early 2017 is when I was able to get back outside again. At first had to sit my way down my stairs, and
I can relate to that.
Yeah, it was crazy. So
did you have to use any sort of mobility aids?
No, I didn't. I was able to walk, but I couldn't do really incredibly simple things like it's very strange. Anything that would require torque from my hands would cause tearing. So like I couldn't lift things that weighed more than about a pound. And there were some ridiculously simple things I couldn't do that were quite surprising. Like, it was literally difficult for me to cut lettuce with a steak knife, or in some spans of time during the injury, it was hard for me to lift a glass of water that was more than half full. Not hard in that I couldn't do it, hard in that if I tried it, it would injure me. So like really small amounts of physical force became extremely difficult to exert safely. And it's probably difficult also to imagine the psychological impact of a situation like that. I was able to walk around relatively safely in my house. I couldn't get down my stairs, and it was way too dangerous for me to consider going outside, not to mention that I couldn't bring anything home from outside if I did go out. So yeah, that was an absolute nightmare. And I'm glad to have survived it, but it gives me some degree of what I would call like it's different from your injury, but it gives me some experience about what it's like to be suddenly deprived, the quote unquote, or let's call it changed, right? To be suddenly physically changed in terms
deprived sounds pretty good too. To be honest,
I'm trying to be politic, right? I'm like, well, maybe it's not exactly deprivation, but yeah, it is. It's a really difficult transition for anyone who suffers something like this. But I was speaking just for myself. Okay, so let me just try to be really clear from my perspective. And then I'd like to hear some things from you about what you feel and think and see. From my perspective, I learned so much, and I became hypersensitive. Other faculties developed in me that had never been developed. Because I couldn't go out, I learned to reach out to people with my voice and electronically. I formed some very profoundly intimate relationships. I don't necessarily mean romantically, but just really deep, amazing relationships with people far away over time. A variety of other faculties became extremely, like, emerged in profound efflorescence inside me. In the beginning of the injury, I had very strong visionary experiences. I'll talk some about that later, what I mean by a vision. And without the use of drugs. All kinds of astonishing transformations occurred. I don't want anyone to be hurt or to think that, here's something I really would not like to encourage people to think. While it is true that radical transformations in our situation may result in the discovery or emergence of non-ordinary experiences, faculties, or abilities, I think most of those faculties and abilities are available to us outside of extremely stark transitions in our well-being or physical state or something like this. In other words, we don't have to have a catastrophe to have experience of some of these features of our natural humanity. But so what I'm trying to say is just that there was a lot of downside, huge amount of downside, and pain and suffering and isolation and loneliness, medical concerns that couldn't be resolved, and all kinds of things. But at the same time, there was a little bit of a bright side to my situation. Please share whatever your thoughts and feelings are about similar perspectives.
Okay. So, as far as non-ordinary states, that is something I had actually had experience with prior to the injury. And the irony is I almost feel the opposite in some ways, where I feel like I'm not able to focus on those realms as much with my current situation. However, that being said, there was a transition period right after the injury that is just now starting to recede, where, because my identity was changing so rapidly, everything I was familiar with was removed. Me not being able to grasp onto the next thing, the next moment, anything familiar, it did start to open certain states. How do I explain this? I think the closest I've ever been to experiencing any sort of the edges, not fully, but just the edges of a unity consciousness, or perceiving the energy of that, which is different from some of the other non-ordinary states that I've played with prior. But as I get into a routine, that part of my mind is, it's finding things to grab onto again. So that's not as easily accessible. What I am getting an education in, though, in a much more grounded way, is I am becoming hypersensitive to the creation state of the mind prior to something manifesting in physical reality, because
Mm.
I have to. Um, so what I'm experiencing, okay, let me preface this a little.
Sure.
So I have done a Vipassana retreat before,
Mm.
and after days of being in this retreat, I was getting frustrated because I couldn't feel what the everyone else was feeling. They're saying focus on, the wind touching your arm. And I couldn't feel it. I just couldn't understand. And so I had a meeting with one of the teachers, and she said, "Well, explain to me what you are feeling." And I told her, I said, "I'm feeling these pulses, like blood moving, and electrical signals." And she said, "Oh, you're inside." She said, "Not many students go inside quickly."
Mm.
So and I've had other experiences that have led me to realize that my natural state of being is much more internalized. Um, so I have a natural map of my internal body, which is very,
Mm.
very convenient for my current situation. So I don't have as strong of an external awareness. So what I'm experiencing is um my internal map got cut off because of the spinal cord situation.
Right.
So I'm having to rebuild my internal map. But
Mm.
I'm not but what so it's amazing is, as soon as I rebuild the map, I took a video of this. I literally saw the electrical signals traveling down my body. Um, so what I'm experiencing is, and I can feel my, I, the, I, this, the best way I can explain it is I can feel my energy body beginning to create the next step. So it gets created in my electrical system prior to the muscular system or whatever physical step, the more meaty step down, if you want to say. I don't want to say step down, but I don't know how else to say it. um
There's no value judgment in up and down. Go
yeah.
ahead.
So what I'm experiencing is that it's so counterintuitive. If you want to try to move your leg, you do it with your muscles. My muscles are disconnected. If I want to try to get something to respond, I have to visualize it happening and send energy to it in my mental map. And it only works that way. It doesn't work fully. I have to rebuild the connection. So um it's I guess that's the biggest lesson I'm getting. So it's much more um it's very, very physical, and it's very, very grounded, and very, very close to home, not far from home. I would say prior to this, my connection to um more I've had telepathic experiences um kind of frequently, to be honest.
Mm. Mhm.
Um and I experimented with that. I played with that. I tried to understand that. But right now, I'm very, very focused on you know, my own being, because my being is not going to rewire unless I focus on my being. And so I'm feeling that. So as another example, my mental map, I've managed to build in my legs, but my glutes were not part of the mental map. They were just not there, and I couldn't get them to activate. And I was with my therapist last week, and I finally got them included into the mental map. And as soon as I
Mm,
did, she felt the electricity moving through. So
mm.
that's been, I mean, that's my entire, I'm pretty obsessively focused on that and rebuilding that map. And so it feels like I'm rebuilding my body, but I'm doing it in the ethers.
Mm. That's brilliant. I'm so glad you said that. And it's almost as if we are talking about two, what's the right word I want here? Two corollaries of the possibilities of human experience that are related, but incredibly, like, they're almost like the difference between being awake and being asleep. So I'm saying, like, something like, I got hurt, I started having non-ordinary experiences, and if I may reflect back to you what you were just saying, or what I took from what you were saying, it was something like, I've had kind of the opposite experience of what you described, Aaron. I had non-ordinary experience, including telepathy and such, prior to my injury, but after my injury, everything is about becoming, like, getting my physical being to rewire,
Yes.
and to have the potential to work toward whatever I can do to reestablish abilities, physical senses, musculature, organ signaling, all of these kinds of things. I have to come back into my physical body in an absolutely fundamental way.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I am responsible for every inch of like I will only inhabit what I engage with.
Right. Right. So, in a way, it's a bit like, for you, our two situations, my historical one and your present one, are very different in that, in a sense, for you, it. I don't really put words in your mouth. Correct me, change what I say whatever feels right to you. But what I'm getting is, it's almost like you were evicted from the lower part of your body.
No, 100%. Yes. That's
Okay,
exactly what
okay,
it feels like.
I
Yes.
got you. Yeah,
I basically was, to be honest.
yeah.
There's still the autonomic nervous system is still functioning and doing its thing, but the part of me that has any willpower is not home.
Mhm. Say anything you want people who haven't suffered like this to know about what's going on for you.
Wow. Wow. It's I can't even begin to dance around that without wanting to come to tears. Um
Mm.
okay. The first thing that was immediately apparent to me that I wish if I could go back to prior to injury, I just wish, like, just appreciate simplicity. Things are not as hard as you think they are. Just, oh, the simple things. Just being able to have the simple things. It's everything. Everything you need to do is available to you at all times. And it's really that simple and that beautiful.
Mm.
The other thing that became very apparent to me through my stages of grieving is I'm only experiencing what we will all experience eventually. I just experienced it very young. But everybody now, given if someone else, they might experience it all at once right before they die, but everybody is going to go through a slow fading away of capability and freedom.
Yes.
That has helped me a little bit with the grieving process because I recognize it's only a matter of time. But it's a strange lesson to carry being young and being around other young people who pity me. And I'm looking at them going, oh, you don't understand though. You pity me, but it's coming for you too. You just don't. We all will get this lesson eventually.
Brilliant. Okay, say more about the first thing. Appreciate the simplicity. I think I know where you're going there, and I could paraphrase, but I'd like to hear it in your words.
I guess, okay. I would get up in the morning and I would hate getting ready for work. And there's just so many simple things that were an annoyance, which is such an irony to me now. Like I was one of those people where like I hated basically all bodily functions. Like, oh gosh, I have to go to pee. That's such a pain in the butt. Like, do you understand what I have to go through to go pee now? It's like, oh, if only I knew. But we make life so much more complicated, and we try to all the striving, the trying to be successful, the complicating everything with the dramas and the stories in our minds. And none of it matters. And I wish I had a more tangible example, but the vision, the image that just keeps coming to mind is how much I would love to just sit outside and have my feet in the grass and have a cup of tea and not have to deal with the physicality and the issues that I'm dealing with. And there's really nothing more important than that. It's really, there's just nothing more important than the simple things. I don't have a more tangible example.
Okay, I'm going to try to reflect back to you in my own words, something of what I've understood from what you've shared here. Would that be all right?
Yeah.
Great. So there's so much that we take for granted. The capacity to lift a spoonful of food to our mouth and chew it. The capacity to, walk down some stairs or carry groceries home, to feel the soles of our feet.
Yes.
Right? To complete a breath without mechanical assistance.
Yes.
To see, to taste, to hear, to speak, to feel sensations on the surface of our skin. All of these fundamental things of our being, we are in a way, okay, this is actually a really rich topic and direction that we can explore together. And we're going to get to some amazing stuff here. So I'm still really excited to be having this conversation with you and so grateful. All right, here we go. We're strap in because this is going to get astonishing quickly, I think. We're busy bemoaning things that don't fucking matter. We are living in such a privileged state, most of us, many of us, much of the time, of the absolute luxury of physical wholeness, freedom, health, and we're worried about things that have no bearing on our existence whatsoever. It's as if we've been spoiled by the incredible freedom and luxury, those of us who enjoy, physical well-being and health and so forth. And we're worried, we're thinking things like, oh God, I gotta cook dinner?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
I have to go to the bathroom?
Yes.
I'm emulating Amon Hillman here, but oh, oh, geez, like, I don't want to drive down to the grocery store and get stuff. Um, or even with people who are sort of much more, you know, this does what I'm going to say next sort of enters into the terrain of specific forms or aspects of neurodivergence. But there are people who bemoan the fact they have to go to sleep, right? They're like, I don't want to sleep. It's a sleeping thing. I'd rather just keep doing things. I want to be fun. I want to get stuff done. I need to get stuff done, right? I've heard Musk, I think, mumble things like this uh, in some of his off moments. Like, what's the sleep stuff? Why do we even have to do that? Or eating food. You know, why do I
Yep.
have to eat food? That's just ridiculous. Couldn't we just mechanically take care of that so we can keep getting stuff done? Which is, you know, a very left hemispheric, quote unquote, maybe not left hemispheric. Let's call it certain features of the waking mind and the grasping aspect of the waking mind, which is a bit disembodied, right?
Yes.
It's kind of
Yes.
disembodied, just doesn't care about the body. Like, why do we even have to mess with this stuff? I just want to be effective 24/7, right? Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. I need to get everything done, which is ridiculous because that leads to a life unlived, obviously. You can get all the things done you want. That doesn't produce meaning or value. But what I'm getting at is we have this problem that the humans have in general, which is that we're suffering from a catastrophic excess of luxuries. And so we don't realize it's very difficult for us to orient onto what is actually meaningful, profound, and important about being alive in a human body, and to start in the position of incredible gratitude.
Yes.
Right? Like, I can speak, walk, see, hear, eat, you know, eliminate waste. I can breathe. I can feel things on my skin. And so the other thing that can happen, anyone's mileage may vary, if we undergo some kind of catastrophic deprivation or, you know, something like what you and or I have suffered, is that we can become vastly more grateful for the things that still remain to us as well. It definitely awoke in me a kind of humility and respect for the fact that there's so much I can still do. I still have, even with the incredible curtailment of my physical liberty and power. And I have to just basically, at least briefly mention, you know, for a man to be deprived of his muscular power, his capacity to just exert force, is very emasculating. Like, most guys I know can push a car. I can't push a heavy grocery bag. You know, and the other thing is, like, I look completely physically fine. So when people look at me, I remember a time when I had just gotten out and I was, you know, walking around, and I was in a restaurant, and I asked the doorman, actually, could he please assist me with the door? And he looked at me like, what kind of a privileged white motherfucker are you anyway? You don't want to open the door for yourself? He didn't say anything, but he looked at me with this look like, are you fucking kidding me? And I said, you know I look like an ordinary person, but I'm injured in such a way that I can't open the door for myself. And he looked angrily and kind of, you know, I don't know what he was actually thinking. I have no idea because he didn't say anything. He did open the door for me, but it's just this feeling of shame, you know, as a man, this incredible feeling of like guilt and shame and emasculation and but on the other side, like, all of the sensitivities. And, you know, these days when I wake up in the morning, I take a moment, more than a moment, I take some time to run an inventory of the stuff that I'm actually grateful for, that I still can do and be and say, and just that I'm alive, right? These kinds of things.
Yeah, it's I think what people don't realize is we are, not all of us, but many of us, we are living in Eden,
Yes.
and it's right there.
Yes. But we're spoiled in a way,
Yep.
right? We're spoiled. Here's the reason we're spoiled. If one day a week we could be blind, one day a week, every other week we could be deaf. One day a week, every other week, we could have our physical mobility, suspended, right? Then we might start to remember. I've seen occasionally here in San Francisco, it's been a long time since I've seen it now, but I've seen blind people walking sighted people around with blindfolds on.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that trippy, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So if we could be, it would be really powerful for us because this is the problem. And I don't want people to feel like I'm making an accusation or an indictment. That's not what I'm trying to do here. No one needs that. That's not helpful. I'm just trying to say that the incredible freedom and privilege that many of us enjoy while we are healthy and whole, even with the occasional illnesses and injuries or misfortunes that we may experience, which are, can be very challenging, or painful or frightening, or, really mess us up. They can. But even then, we still tend to respond as if we feel entitled, like my ability to walk down the street and carry things and move the car with my muscles is a given, right? My ability to see and poop and all these things, that's just a given. That's you're given that free. Not true, right? That's just not true. What's actually going on is a kind of cascade of miracles, moment to moment, which we probably recognize when we are infants, but we soon become sort of, what's the right word, like immune to the awareness of over time. When we're little, we're like, what's this body thing? Wow, I get one of these? I remember one of my dear friends who passed away in 2012, one of my ex-girlfriends, Coco, Colleen Yeager, she said, I remember a scene from before I was born where I was shown that I was going to be given a body, and I was just completely overwhelmed with ecstasy. I couldn't believe. I tried to figure out what I could possibly have done to be given one of these.
Wow.
And that's a really important, I love to honor Coco. She actually walked me through the first time I was injured and took care of me and stuff. And was the only person in my life that was doing that. So I really want to honor her in this moment. But this brings us to other features we can explore. Well, actually, I have a couple bookmarked, but let's continue on the road we're on for the moment.
Okay.
Anything you care to add or share? I'd love to hear. So remember my question to you. What would you? And by the way, if it leads to tears or whatever, that's totally okay here with me. If you're okay, I'm okay. Crying is part of being human.
Oh, I don't have control over that. So
okay, good.
Thank you.
Right on. I want you to feel safe and
and
supported.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No reservations.
Great. So yeah, anything you'd like, the people anything else you'd like to share, or have the people who are still, unimpeded know about, like those of us who are healthy and whole. What would you like us to know? Remember.
Just that we're in an Eden. There's nothing more than that. I also recognize that I could not have realized that prior. So I also recognize that I was around people like me. And there's always that, you always hear people say, oh, it could never happen to me, or I thought that. So I understand that there, I understand that it's really difficult to try that on without going through something like this. So, and I don't know why. Like, I don't know if we're maybe not built to recognize that. Like there's certain things that I realize now, being disabled. I had the same misperceptions of disability prior, so I can't blame people for not recognizing that.
Perhaps, yes, this all makes sense to me. The goal, though, oh, I don't mean to pick at the language. Maybe I should
No,
just,
please do go for it.
okay. When are we helped by blaming people? So what we
Right.
actually want is something other than the capacity to blame them. But I recall a long time ago, one of my old roommates, a Zen buddy of mine, was saying that he was really upset, and I can imagine many, I can imagine many other conservatives saying something similar to this. He was really upset that our taxes were funding affordances for people with what were then called disabilities. He was like, you know what? Fuck those people, man. I work hard. It's not my fault they're in a problem. I don't want to pay for their, so they can get it. Like, why everywhere I go, there's like a button so you can open the door.
Yeah.
And I just looked at him and wondered, what's gone wrong in your mind, buddy? I won't name him because I don't think it's kind to shame people. But I really just had to pause and go like, dang, what? I think what I realized when I heard him saying that was actually that this didn't have anything to do with people and disabilities, quote unquote, or, in modern, more politically correct term, uniquely able people or something like this. But no, it had to do with him feeling that he was suffering deprivations. That's what was going on, right? That he couldn't say, I'm feeling that I'm not getting my fair share or of human attention or freedom or help or whatever. So why are other people being helped? But let's go somewhere interesting from this comment. Okay. It'll never happen to me.
Correct. Well, that's also that's kind of what I posted about today is, one day I woke up realizing, well, I woke up not realizing that everything was going to be unimaginably different in 8 hours. Um, and that's why disability rights should matter to everyone, because it is a human issue. It's not a disability issue. We will all be disabled at some point in time. It's
Yep.
just, when does it happen?
Oh, such a brilliant point. Okay. So, I mean, I can see like 15 science fiction stories in my mind where Joe goes to a bar, he's drinking with his buddies, like, those disabled people, why do they have all these affordances? Who cares about disability?
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. He gets in a car accident on the way home, is disabled, and has to live through the rest of his life hearing what he was,
Right.
his own
Exactly.
comments ringing in his ears. The point is, we don't know when our ableness ends.
Right.
We presume it's eternal through our life because we've never been deprived of it.
Right.
And that presumption is certainly wrong
It
for
is
all of us, right?
certainly wrong
It's
for everybody.
absolutely wrong, right?
Yep.
So, not only in any intelligent society, okay, they've discovered recently I remember seeing some research, some papers published about the finding of some remains in antiquity. I think we're talking 10, 20, 30,000 years ago, maybe 50, 100, not sure, where they found remains that implied that a group of people somewhere in Europe had carefully taken care of a member of their community that was clearly severely disabled. If I'm just going to use this language, I know there's new, better language and whatever, but I'm just going to use this word because otherwise I'm going to have to question every time I try to think of something. I guess the other word that we're not supposed to use anymore is handicapped. I come from, I was born in the 60s, so these words are natural to me. And if people want to take me, if they want to indict me for using them, I'm happy to have a conversation with them about it. But yeah, so they found the skeleton that implied there was no way this person could have taken care of themselves. So it was very obvious that they had been taken care of by their tribe or peer group, and and this implied. Okay, this is kind of ridiculous. We moderns, we have all these bizarre ideas about accounting games and shit, right? Like you're only really useful if you contribute value or something, this kind of crap, right? Which is fundamentally wrong because, well, for all kinds of reasons. First of all, commodities aren't the basis of meaningful existence, not by a long shot. Secondly, accounting games are a function of part of the mind that isn't actually very human. In a lot of ways, and not trustworthy in how it departs from or fails to enter into relational integrity with other beings and so forth. We have these aspects of our humanity that are clearly, to be very kind, extremely limited in their ability to relate with or merge or co-experience or empathize. And it's weird when we hear this word empathy, we think, oh, that's something someone does for someone else. That's not what it is at all. I remember some time ago I was trying to cross the street and there was sort of what appeared to be kind of a homeless couple pushing a shopping cart. They had a little dog on a leash, and the man accidentally ran over the dog's foot, and it yelped. And when it yelped, I felt pain. That wasn't a service I was performing for the dog. You follow me?
Oh, that's I love that is the specific example that you used, because I'm taking a meditation teacher training course right now.
Brilliant.
And they were, yes, and they were, the teacher was, describing one of the core um, lowercase t trauma with all humans is a feeling of separation. And we are wired for connection. And the example he used for empathy is, he was walking down the street and there was a box of kittens on the side of the road. And as the cars drove by, the kittens cringed because they were scared. And naturally, as a human, you're going to cringe too. You don't have control over it. It was a very specifically similar example.
Yes. Oh, brilliant. There's so much there. What you've just said. Oh my God. My mind is reeling with the possibilities of where we can go here. All right. So we have this word empathize, which makes it seem like it's an action I do.
Right.
It's not an action I do. It's the same thing that happens if I start to fall down and I try to rebalance my body. It's not it's not a thing I do. It naturally happens. Right? It's the same thing as when I accidentally place my hand on something that's much hotter than I thought it was, and I recoil from it. I don't have to. It's autonomic.
Right. Well, to go back to some of those telepathic experiences I was telling you about,
Please.
it's the same thing. It's your empathic nervous system responding to your environment. And if you are somebody that is a visual thinker, it gives you images along with that. But it's the same exact tuning in to it's just your nervous system tapping into the environment around it. I played with
Mm.
that. I tested it.
Mhm.
So I mean the empathic level of connection is, well, yeah.
You know, I mentioned Coco. She was a synesthete, right? So for
Mm,
her, sensory experience had a variety of uncommon shadings and colorations and tactile senses and perhaps flavors and so forth. Um, I, th-
amazing.
I think it's natural, actually. We might all be more or less this way. Uh, in other words, I think that we are each, um, in each moment of our lives, a unique selection of the library of potential human faculties, sensitivities, and so forth. What do you think about that?
I would absolutely agree. It's just what lens you get comfortable perceiving the information coming in by.
Well,
But
it's
the information,
also, I'm sorry, go ahead,
no, you go.
please.
Well, that was kind of it. I lose
Mm,
my I lose my track very, very quickly.
I'll be sensitive to that going forward. Um, you were saying it's the lens with
Mm,
which.
mm. Um, hmm. Well, it's taken me w- it I find this continuously kind of disturbing. The more I learn my particular perceptual lens, I think I know you don't take this for granted, and probably a lot of the circles you run in, people don't take it for granted. If you meditate a lot, you don't take this for granted. But I think a large portion of the population takes it for granted that we're all perceiving in the same way.
I'm so glad you said that. Yeah,
And
there's
that
no chance of that being true.
it's
No
so
chance.
disturbing to me.
Yeah.
So my natural way of perceiving, I often forget. I'm like, oh, this is not the natural way of perceiving for other people. So I've learned, so I would develop games to play with people to kind of see if I could tap them into the same thing and perceive in different ways together. Um, yeah. So like I would, for example of one of those games, and this is how I would kind of play with telepathy. So I was a hairstylist.
Mm,
And so being a hairstylist, I'm in close physical contact with people all day long.
hmm.
And
It's very
I
intimate.
very, very intimate.
Hmm.
And I am a very, very visual perceiver.
Mm,
So everything that's coming in through my senses, I'm getting some sort of visual symbols. I don't want to say always a story, but very strong images coming in. And I noticed after a while that, especially the more I would meditate, that I would tend to visualize the information that my clients had not told me yet. I was getting it prior to them communicating it. I don't think it's because I was picking up on something that wasn't experienced. I think I was just picking up on their nervous system experiencing it before they verbalized it. Um, so I would test this and I would say, were you thinking whatever, like, okay, was the man that did that action, did he look like this? And they'd say yes, whatever. So later, I wanted to experiment a little bit deeper with that and see if I could send it the other way. But
Mm.
I, if someone's not trained to think like that, how do I get them to think like that? So,
Mhm.
so people would fall asleep all the time in my chair or when I'm doing a scalp
Mhm.
massage. So
Mhm.
they're going to be dreaming. So when people would fall asleep, I would go, oh, okay, this is the time. And I would really start concentrating on some sort of imagery. And the majority of the time, they would be like, oh, wow, I just had this dream of, snakes in a jungle. And I'm like, oh, did you? Surprise, surprise. Um, and it was me trying to really send that. But I think that's
Wow.
natural. I think it's just our empathic. It's I think it's natural.
I do too. We can talk a lot more about that. I want to collect some threads together here. Okay. So I'm going to try to make some bookmarks. Telepathy,
Mhm.
your tattoo.
Mm. Mhm.
Um,
Oh, that's a whole different
I
that's a
yeah,
whole
we're gonna go
different
there. I know, I know.
yeah.
We're gonna go there. Um, hair. Okay,
Did you
hair.
say hair or care?
Hair. Hair.
Okay. Yep.
Care too, but surely you understand
Mhm.
that the hair is effectively like well, no, wait. Let me start that sentence over again. If I could back up, I would restate this. Um, what do you know? What have you heard or read about hair being essentially a complex array of extremely subtle and profound electromagnetic antennae?
I have heard about it. I
What do you think about that? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings?
I
What's
don't
your
I
experience?
don't I don't know. I don't have experience with that. My hair is very, very long, but I'm more I'm more interested in the nervous system response in the scalp right underneath the hair, which of course is receiving stimuli from the hair, but
Mm-hmm.
that would be hard for me to consider just from the moral standpoint of how often I took scissors to it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm gonna walk through a few perspectives briefly. We don't have to pursue them. We can if you like. There are yogins who never cut their hair. There are monks and nuns and other sages who shave their head.
Mm.
And these two states seem very importantly related to one another. It's not like one is better than the other. Rather, it's that both of them are important and different.
Interesting.
Um, I remember the first time I shaved my head. So, first of all, I was a huge proponent of just let my hair grow, leave it alone when I was younger. This was a problem because most males were expected to have short hair. My father felt that, this is part of learning to obey authority and so forth, cut your hair. Also, we should notice historically, at least in modern times, um, the the idiosyncratic, no, wait, what's the right word? It'll work. But, girls have long hair, boys have short hair, right? At least the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, things like this. Generally speaking, women don't cut their hair short and men don't let their hair grow long. There are different customs in different places and times, of course. Um, so yeah, I mean, when I think of the earth as a being, I think of her like the Van Allen belts and her electromagnetic field kind of as her hair. Naturally, I do. And I felt, we have this story of Samson and Delilah, right? Delilah cuts Samson's hair and he loses all his powers while he's asleep, as if the hair is sort of an umbilicus, right? Now, you as a hairdresser, as you said, you may be disinclined to entertain some of these perspectives based on the fact, of how often you've taken scissors to the hair.
Yeah, the travesty.
Right, the travesty. And yet, people select you to do that, right? They come to you for that. And you're this sort of telepath who, while they're dreaming in your chair, sends them images of snakes in the jungle. Is that what you said?
Yes.
It's hilarious.
That's a true story too.
And by the way, the snakes in the jungle, doesn't that seem like the Earth's hair? Like, what about the treetops? Isn't that her hair? She has hair. She has hair of various kinds.
Well, it absolutely is receiving signals, without a doubt. I mean,
there's no chance it isn't. What happens when we're exposed to static electricity? We humans have this phrase, right? My hair. Yeah, right. My hair stood on end. Right. You can see people's hair go nuts if they're near a place where lightning is about to strike, for example. So yeah, this stuff's real. I don't know exactly what to make of it. I'm not trying to tell people what to see, think, or believe, but I have long understood that there's a relationship between our energy bodies, and I think there's probably more than one and more than one kind of that, and our hair. So I think it's amazing and fascinating that you have been a hairdresser, a hairstylist. Beautiful.
Well, for me, well, one, this is totally separate note. But it's something I tend to think of the evolutionary relationships, and it drives me crazy. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. I just want to put it out there how it drives. It's always driven me crazy. Why are humans the only animal, besides I think horses, that have long hair that just keeps growing? Like, our hair keeps growing. No other animal has hair that just keeps growing, especially from like, if you're running around out in nature, that's not helpful.
Right.
That's a disadvantage. But that's a whole other, like, I don't know. I don't think there is an answer to that. Like, as a hairstylist, I research that periodically. I have not found no convincing answer for that.
Okay, well, let me be clear about something. Most amazing answers and insights, well, that's not true. Many amazing answers and insights don't necessarily come from research. In fact, research often catastrophically fails to answer really pressing questions. What I think often results in insight is something like what we're doing here, or what we're doing here. Right.
Well, I don't have an answer to that. Maybe I don't actually want to have an answer to that.
No, you did actually. Yeah, you did say something that gave me the feeling that you might prefer to leave this question unanswered.
Yeah, I just realized that for myself.
Yeah, but I really loved that you introduced it nonetheless, that you were brave enough to introduce it. And I'm having so much fun in our conversation. I want to just check in with you. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Do you need something? Shall we continue?
No, we can continue. It's funny. No, I'm good.
Great.
It's just funny that you said that at that moment in time, but no,
Why?
I'm
there's
good.
something. Oh, I see. I think.
I'm doing disabled people things right now, and I'm not going to say what they are.
I got you.
I can continue.
No, I got the sense that something was up, and I needed to check in with you. And I think that's very powerful, because this brings us also back to one of the things I forgot to bookmark that I meant to, which is what I'm going to call the third mind, or the bird between the wings of us. We think we're separate. We think we're separate. We were trained to believe that we are separate, that we've been severed away, that like being born as a human means you're all alone in this body you have. No one can know your mind or feelings. or thoughts or concerns. You're totally alone in a sea of similar little isolated bubbles of human experience, and you're the most important thing in the universe. Humans are the pinnacle of terrestrial evolution. We're the thing that actually matters. We're the only intelligent ones around here, and all these other ridiculous fictions. What do you think about that stuff?
I'm laughing. Um I it that that's just profoundly nonsense to me. It absolutely for okay, on multiple levels. First of all, the fact that where the most important thing is a disturbing pattern that I everyone wants to feel special. Um I I don't even know where to go with that one. But the disconnection thing is that's been coming up a lot for me recently is connection, not my own connection, because especially after this situation where I am a lot more alone than but I was alone a lot, but
Uh-huh.
I'm
Yeah.
alone, you know, more frequently. Like once again, I was a hairstylist. I was literally touching
Oh
human
my
beings.
gosh. Oh, Amber, that's so crucial. Yes, please continue.
So I was literally touching other humans all day long.
Mhm. Yes.
Um, but I feel probably more connected now than I ever have. Um, but that's more of a knowing. I don't have concrete examples of that. It's more of a knowing and a trusting. But the fact that we're alone is just absurd. It is absolutely absurd. You are never alone.
There's a fascinating little feature of that word, right? Which is a little bit schizophrenic
All
to
one.
remark upon. All one. You saw it. You saw it coming. Yeah,
Mhm.
see, we're doing the thing. We're doing the thing. I can't believe you saw that. Yeah, you knew exactly where I was going. I have had
Yeah.
experiences where I drew all of my assets into one. Hmm. Okay, there have been two experiences that I can recall where I drew the entirety of my being into one little compressed state, like situation. And in different ways, both times, I felt that I was the only
Mm,
one in the universe, like in
mhm,
everything. Like I was
mhm.
completely all one.
That's amazing.
And there's so many different things we can explore here. I don't want to lose our important threads, but okay. Yeah,
I
there's
have not
some.
had that experience, by the way. I have craved that experience, but I've never had it fully.
So this relates to our previous discussions. So if you don't mind, I will take a few moments and elucidate about these.
Okay.
The first one was I was lying in bed. Okay, I had been very interested in what the hell sleep paralysis was
Mm,
because I had experienced it a few times, and I do think that although some people experience it, look, the topology of human experience is broad and profoundly what's the right way of saying it? Diverse, right? Profoundly diverse. It's not the way we have these fictions. Oh, everyone experiences the same thing when they taste strawberry, or
right, 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 right.
everyone knows what it's like to feel whatever. We have fictions of continuity. Things are always going to be the same, just like they were yesterday. I'll never be disabled. Blah blah blah. We have fictions of universality and fictions of generalization, fictions of people having the same perception or experience, which clearly cannot be true. It's not that we
No.
never do, it's that okay, if there's a unity, it benefits from there being unique individuals participating in it, right? what any kind of unity would benefit from having unique, just like my hand is a unity, right? And each of the fingers, they're all fingers. They look fingerly, you know, except the thumb is a little weird, but they all, they, and there's that palm thing, right? Where they come together. It really matters. They're not, you know, people hold up their hand like, how do you count this? And they think 5. They're only counting the separated parts. What are they counting? Like they're kind of confused. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is it's the diverse unity of profoundly unique members that creates the possibilities of liberty, right? In our hand, in our thought, in our relationships, in our world. So if everything, quote, everything's just one, I'd love to see someone actually demonstrate that to us. I think it's true, but when people make off the cuff casual statements like this, very rarely does it have anything to do with their understanding of unity or their capacity to embody it. Go ahead.
It's so funny that you're saying what your last sentence, because as you were saying that, the whole entire time I was trying to hold the conception of unity in my mind. I can't. It breaks apart immediately. I cannot do it. I can't hold that concept.
You and I each have experienced and still in some ways experience physical discontinuity of unity.
Yes. Yes.
Now, I don't want to go to, this is a rabbit hole that we can go down, but there's so many things I want to get to while I still have you.
We can book that mark for another time.
We can book that mark. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
Let's book that mark.
I don't even have unity in words right now.
No, that's fine. You're all good.
I'm going to also make a note on that, though. Something interesting that happened after the Vipassana retreat is that same my language being in the right order started falling apart, just like that happened. Anyways.
Yeah. I'm highly sensitive to vocal music. And sometimes when I check in with you, it may be because I have sensed that your vocal music is changing.
You were correct.
I want to make sure that you're okay and that you're, you know, that you're feeling that we can continue.
I appreciate that. So I'm going to be super honest right now.
Okay.
I use a catheter every 4 hours.
Right.
And I was like, can I do this while continuing this conversation? And I did. And so you probably noticed that my vocal cadence went back to how it was before the activity.
May I be similarly honest?
Yeah.
It is not your cadence or your prosody that changed. It is the tonality of your voice. It seems, well, what I interpret the tonality change to mean is fatigue. That's why I'm checking.
Interesting. I'm not fatigued yet, although I do go to bed pretty early. So I'm probably beginning to ride that wave into that habitual place.
Great.
I'm not feeling that need to be done, but my body's naturally probably beginning that process.
Okay, so let's be sensitive. Feel free to let me know when, you know, if you feel the need for us to wind down for this session or whatever.
Okay.
All right, so back to some bookmarks. Unity and distinction. Oh, there's so much I can say about that. Let's see here. We're gonna transit away from that though. Okay, the humans, we think we're separate and we think our minds are in these separate little boxes inside our heads. One of the most compelling, oh wait, I was gonna share about the 2 times. All right, so once, sorry, this is a little disorganized. Once I was, the 2 times that I felt all one, right, is where I was going. So once I was with my partner in bed late at night, and I began to experience a phenomenon that I don't really entirely understand. There's a word I could use for it that probably would come from recording or synthesis or something. But it's a pulsing. It's like a full body energetic pulsing. And on the down pulse, on that sound, it's as if all the energy in my body suddenly flushes out. So there's like an up pulse, and then there's this flushing of energy. And at the bottom of that wave, it feels like all my energy it's like the bottom of the wave, right? It's this trough. And I felt this a few times, and then I opened my eyes and I looked around the room and I thought, wow, everything is so clear. But it wasn't that everything was clear. What it was that I was seeing in 360 degrees. And I could see my girlfriend asleep on the bed next to me, the shape of her hair, everything in the room at once. And I thought, wow, everything's so vivid right now. And then the next thing I felt was that I was the only being in the universe. Just nothing else but me. And it was kind of a very frightening, sudden all oneness, right? And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just such an unusual thing, right? And then so I kind of recoiled from that. I got frightened, and and then I realized I am not sitting up in bed. I am lying down in bed. My eyes are closed. How am I seeing right now? And then I woke up. And then I opened my eyes, and all that changed was it went from 360 degrees of vision to common, visual perception for a human with eyes.
That's amazing.
One of the first things I thought was, oh shit, there's an entirely other way of seeing. We could probably teach blind people how to do this. That was my first thing, was like, we could help the people who can't see. Because if there's some other way of seeing that doesn't use eyes, my eyes were closed and I was seeing the whole room for sure. And if that's possible, then that, go ahead.
I've heard from very, very, very experienced meditators, not a lot, but I've heard other people experiencing that, and they have described it to me where it's always right before waking up, where it's almost like you're going from this tunnel and you travel through these layers, going from the oneness into the diversity.
Yep. Yeah, there's the two liminal phases that are differently called hypnagogia, which is on the way to sleep, and hypnopompia, which is on the way to waking.
Hypnagogia I experience frequently. Never experienced that traveling through those states. But I'm also not a very experienced meditator, so I don't know if that's just a particular tuning to subtlety, I would imagine.
It is true. I have also heard from meditators, but not only. Okay, so it sounds like you heard from actual humans. I've read in books that.
Oh yeah, I heard from an actual human. Only one actual human, but I've also read it. Very
I've read in
woman.
Books that. I'm sorry. Please continue. Tell me more about her.
No, she's just
your relationship.
Hold on. Her name is. Hold on. I'm so horrible with names.
It's okay.
Jack O'Keefe, I think, is her name. I could be wrong, but she's someone that I've sat with a couple times, and to me, this was just her consciousness. She has the ability to change states of consciousness and meet each person where they are to which doorway they need opened.
Wow.
So yeah, it's fascinating. So actually, um, is it okay that I'm kind of going down veering a
Yes,
little
you're
bit?
fine.
Okay.
I'm right with you.
So as you know, I worked at a ayahuasca retreat center for a few years. Um, and before I went there, I had this intensive phobia of vomit. Um,
Right. Right.
so
Which is a
I
common part of ayahuasca
yes,
experiences, as I understand them, never having had
yes,
the experience myself.
yes. So I felt called, which relates to something that I mentioned to you earlier. I felt called to go be at a center where they did this kind of work. But I was stopping myself from doing it because I had a vomit phobia, a very intensive. I mean, I went out of my way to avoid any activity where there could be vomit if I had ever experienced
Right.
vomit.
Right. Right.
It was really bad. So I'm sitting at this um uh sit, I guess, just a sit, and she is the meditation teacher, and she's kind of, going through and kind of feeling like where each person needs to be like tweaked. And this is just meditation, and it's not even intensive meditation. This is a 1 day class, um a sit, and she's kind of going one by one and letting people ask her questions. And the woman next to me, I don't remember what this woman's particular uh hang up was or issue. I think actually it was a fear of expressing herself. So this Jack, I think that's her name, looks at her and she goes, okay, can you just make a sound? And she starts getting her to make this sound, and this woman kind of, she gets louder and louder and louder, and suddenly she starts violently vomiting
Mm.
right next to me.
Mm.
um and it's just, she's just expelling energy. And at this point, I had not been exposed to a lot of things at that point, and I was like, this is too much, like this is way beyond my capacity to hold this. But then I went, oh, Amber, this is your biggest fear. So I forced myself to sit. I got up and walked away at first, and then I said, no, 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 let's go back, let's sit next to her. But anyways, what I'm getting at is this woman had a capacity for moving consciousness that I don't know if I've ever met another human being that had that kind of capacity. And she's the only one I've heard say when she went to sleep, she experienced that tunnel of, the moving from the diversity into the unity experience.
Okay, so now you've drawn us to the precipice of a cliff. I want to jump off with you right now.
Wonderful.
um, and here's the precipice. We've been trained to think our minds are separate. And I think, in fact, I'm nearly certain that this stuff we call thinking, this is like birds crawling around in quicksand on their backs. This thinking shit is not what we're meant for. This
No,
is
I would
not what our
agree.
minds are for. The whole thinking thing is a huge problem. And it's really like, I know, it's like fish trying to swim inside a rock and then wondering why it doesn't work well.
I would agree. And that when I had an experience recently where I kind of experienced two very different parts of my mind, and I was kind of uh vacillating in between them, and I was kind of being shown like, this is what this part is and this is what this part is. And when you mentioned earlier the grasping nature,
Mm-hmm.
that to me is the thinking mind,
Mm-hmm.
and
It
that's
is.
all it is.
Um, there's so many. Okay, there's so much going on here. Let me try to tease some threads out that I think might be profound. So this thing we do when we're by ourselves and we're thinking, I think that's mostly garbage. It's very compelling, and I honestly feel that it hates life.
It does. It's
It can't
addictive.
stand that there's living things. It doesn't like that there's actual intelligences. What it wants is machines and tools and devices and war and devastation. And the reason that it wants those things is kind of like an IFS myth, an internal family systems myth, where a protector part goes insane after having trying to protect everything from everything. And I can go on about how that got set up, but I won't. And then it just decides that in order to protect everything from everything, everything has to die and just become a dead inside thing that can be manipulated with a hand, a kind of a mental hand. And, you know, we might be actually orbiting one of the most important things that was ever spoken about among humans right here, because this is the thing that can end planets, right? This isn't the thing that just fucks up people. It can end worlds, this thing. So yeah, it's a huge problem.
There's this, okay. I don't, for me, the symbolic representational part of it is what has become dangerous,
Agreed.
because it's like we are compelled, everything that we are unaware of internally, we are compelled to bring it outside of us and interact with it externally. um like I'm not sure if we, I was trying to think about this last night, like, did that part of the mind get created because of our hands and our ability to manipulate our surroundings? Or, well, not or, I know it's not just or, but
Hmm.
did we develop the ability to manipulate our surroundings because of our mind becoming representational?
Right, right. Which came first, the accident or the repercussions?
But my experience of it, what I was being shown a few nights ago, is that it's empty and it's hollow and it's
Yes.
hungry. It's
Oh God, yes.
continuous.
Yes, yes. I'm starting to lapse into my Amon Hillman persona. Yes, beautiful. Love it. Oh God. Um, yeah. Okay, so here's what I think happened. I think that, all right, I don't want to, this is also a rabbit hole I don't want to go too far down, but you're the one who
Okay.
led me here the first time. So I want to go a little bit far down this rabbit hole. And it does relate to your tattoo, I think.
Well, that is the rabbit hole that has led me to all the rabbit holes, but we didn't talk about that last time.
Yeah, we did talk about that last time.
Oh, I didn't tell you all of the things.
Okay, I agree about that. Okay, so here's where I'm going to go. I think there was another. I think we were born in the same way fish have water and birds have the sky. I think our minds were born for a relationship we don't have, and it's a relationship with something like angels and or non-human intelligences and or what we might think of as perhaps a collective of other intelligences, like a universe city, which is
Okay.
also a school in which all
So
the books are alive and they teach themselves to you together in the library. Now, this is a very fantastical sounding arrangement.
I don't think so. If s- Since we last talked, um I was so bothered by when you said that disconnect from the relationship of the sky. I felt that in such a way in my being that I was like, "Oh, no, no, no. This is I have to do something about this." So I took on an astrology apprenticeship.
Oh my
Um,
God. Okay. Love it. Beautiful.
well,
Oh
there's
God. Yeah.
there's a relationship there. There's a prior relationship there, but
Okay.
I didn't dig very deep into it. But there's this knowing that each of those places in the sky, there's a myth attached to it. And when you begin these studies, it is undoubtedly our mind is from that patterning. There is no
Yes.
doubt in my
Oh my
mind.
God, I'm starting to see it. Oh Jesus. Now we're doing the thing that we did the first time. I love this so much. This is why I love when we get to make the bird together, so to speak. It's as
Mm,
if the places in the sky are organs in a body that our minds and spirits are the children of.
yes. And I can give you very strange, specific examples. Okay. And if you're an experienced astrologer, this is normal language. If you're casual, you really have to get deep into the language. But so the person that is my teacher calls it the constellating the psyche. So without a doubt,
Oh,
that is what is creating the shape of our psyche. So for example, I'm going to get to the snakes. I have to
great.
get to the
Let's
snakes.
go. Let's go.
Um, so the reason I ended up at an ayahuasca center in the first place, snakes. The snakes has been my guiding. I follow the trail of the snakes. So, um, the myth of do you know the myth of Asclepius?
Tell me anything you want to share about it. I know the name.
Okay, so we have the dream temples where Greek dreaming temples where they would, if someone needed healing, they would essentially, you would go through these rituals and they would cleanse you and wait until you had a dream representing it was time for you to go into the temple. Then you would go into the temple and you would dream again, and the priests would interpret your dream for whatever healing you needed.
Wow.
So, the Asclepian dreaming temples. So one of the most common symbols, and also this, I'm just going to throw this in here. The Asclepian rod had one snake on it, not two.
Mm-hmm.
So the one of the strongest symbols of the Asclepian is the snake. So a couple nights ago, with my situation, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, I'm gonna try to enter into I would like permission to enter into the temple um via dreaming. So I just, prayed. I Asclepian, like, when it's time, come to me. And I don't know if it was that night or a few nights later, but I had a dream and suddenly there's just these snakes like pouring out of the land, just pouring out snakes and snakes and snakes. And I was like, oh, okay. And then next in the dream, and keep in mind when I say healing, I would like to walk again. That's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So um next in the dream, I'm in a plane. I'm not walking. I don't walk anymore in my dreams. My subconscious took that upon itself very, very quickly. And I will do other things, like I will fly or I will roll, but I do not walk. So, anyways, I'm in a plane with a friend of mine that I've met on the internet who's paralyzed,
Mm-hmm.
and we are chasing a whale, a humpback whale. So the next morning I woke up and I thought, okay, I have asked for that symbol. I'm going to go to this person and ask him about this dream that I had because he was in my dream. And he said, oh, I remember that day. That was the day that I say that was my favorite day of using my legs, because I was walking along the shore and chasing this whale, and it was just the best day of walking that I ever had.
Oh my God.
So that in itself is interesting, but that's not the part about the constellating the psyche. So
Mhm.
what is very interesting about that, I was telling my astrology teacher, I'm very interested in the Asclepian modality, that part of the sky. And he said, "Oh, that's very interesting. If you had that dream, you should see where the asteroid Hygeia was in relationship to the moon that night,
Wow. Okay.
because Hygeia is Asclepian's daughter, and she often is the one that brings these messages."
Oh, Almond Hill would love this. He'd be just like, of course. Yeah, she
So
is.
I went and checked my chart, and Hygeia was conjunct my moon that night, meaning she was activating that part of my psyche that night. The moon moves constantly. So if you understand astrology language, you know that these planetary bodies are moving constantly. Some of them move much faster than others, but those two being right on top of each other means that's what was coming through my psyche at that point in time. Meaning my psyche is attached to what's happening in the sky.
Yes, yes, I see. Oh my God. Okay, there's so much
So it's
here.
more like the sky is dreaming us.
Yes, 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 yes. This is exact. Oh, that's so beautiful that you said that.
I got
This
that from
is
my astrology teacher. I have to
this is
say that.
exactly what I this is exactly what I'm trying to say in the recent essay, The Umbilical Disaster. And why did I call it
Mm.
that? I called it that because our direct awareness of this situation disappeared. And the absence left, the hole in us, in our
Yes.
mind that was left, is what became the grasping monster that owns our civilization. It's an absence
Oh.
appearing as a presence. It's trying to make up for what went away, right? And the way it tries to make up for what went away is with technology, machines, the dead inside things. And since
Oh.
it thinks that machines will bring back the thing that went away, it doesn't care about organisms or relationships or actual intelligences or anything. It just wants to
Well,
keep making more machines.
it's a dead echo. It doesn't know
Right.
what it's doing.
Right, right. It doesn't. And this protector part in IFS terminology jargon, it has been carrying. We need to do IFS therapy on the species or something resembling it, so that we can talk to this aspect in the
I
at the
agree.
species level psyche and relieve it of its burden. I'm
I agree.
getting a call. So can you still hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
Great. Um, we need to talk to this aspect. We need to hear its story. We need to know its history. We need to know its pain, its fear. We need to reassure it
Mm.
that it won't be subjected to judgment and that we won't destroy it. We need it to go back to where it used to be before it became distended and uh, so terrified that it wanted absolute sovereignty, right? This thing is tyrannical. It's tyrannically afraid in our species, in the psyche of our species, right? Oh my God, there's so much here. Again, we're doing the same kind of magic we did the first time that we spoke.
Well, that's
Um,
that's that's my teachers would explain it as those were the gods, and they're they will live through us whether or not we're in relationship with them. But it's better if we have a relationship with them. But obviously we talked not that long ago, and so after we talked, I was like, oh, I have to understand this deeper. I have to go back into the relationship with this. I'm so early in that process that I don't quite know. uh I'm not sure if it's just one. The grasping mind I see, but I'm not sure if it's just one thing. I think it might be many things that we um need to be back in relationship with, I think.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I agree. Um, oh, there's so much here. I'm like staggered. Okay. So yeah, this is one of the things that Hillman says, right? He's like, this idea
Mm.
of monotheism is a poison. There's
Yes.
no such monotheism. There's no such thing.
Yes.
It's a poison. It's tyrannical. It's similar to the problem of that aspect that took over the psyche of our people at the species level, thinking it's the only thing that matters. I'm the only one, right?
Yes.
Also,
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
similar to a certain guy whose name begins with T, who we presently see at play. Another guy whose name begins with P over in Russia. I'm the only
I
important thing. I mean, I
I
don't.
see it on almost everybody. That's something else I've been thinking about a lot. With Okay, we're talking. We talked about unity and all one. That is, but diversity within that unity.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
another, and it's within me where I realize there is a part of me that is seeking a unified coherence. And I have realized that part of me, I almost feel like that is a virus. And I see it expressed in other people where I'm like, what is this drive for unity and singularity? It's obsessive. And it doesn't feel natural to me.
It's weird. This thing that's in the psyche, what it does is it counterfeits the virtues and then sells us broken versions of them at ever increasing prices. And
Right.
unity is one of the things it does this with. So is divinity. So is intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence. I mean, I'm not saying that's all bad, but it's pretty terrifying. It does this thing where it tries to build the ultimate of something and then sell it
Yes.
to us, right? The phone that I'm communicating with you on is an excellent example of this. That thing so closely resembles what would have previously in our ancestors been known as the personal um, protector spirit. It's the link to all other intelligences that we used to have. We brought it with us into birth. Here's the other crazy thing that I want people to know. The answers to all these questions and the histories of all of these mysteries are embedded in each one of us, not merely in the way that fossils are embedded in the geological record, that way too, but we experienced the entire history of what happened to our species
Right.
from
Right. Right.
conception to infancy to childhood to adolescence to young adulthood to adulthood and so on. And we each experienced it uniquely. So there's this thing we can do together, which is a sort of a magical form of archaeology. And you and I do this naturally when we're together. This is probably part of why I was compelled to contact you in the first place. I can't imagine what you thought when some guy out of nowhere like reached out to you and was like, "Hey, Amber, I think, let's have a conversation." But we so naturally have this ability together, and I honor it, and it's very precious to me. I feel humble around it. I'm so grateful to be able to fly together for a while. Now, what you said in your dreaming was that your subconscious mind quickly realized that you don't
Oh,
walk
yeah.
in your dreams anymore.
Bummer. Yeah.
Okay,
I
I
hate
want.
that for me.
Okay, okay. I'm with you. I understand why that might be so. But I want you to just, if you're willing, agree with me so that your dreaming mind can hear our agreement that it's okay for you to walk in your dreams, even though.
Wow.
What do you think about that
I agree with
proposition?
that.
Right on. I
Can you
agree
say
too.
it? Can you say it
Yeah.
again though?
Yeah, you're completely fine to walk in your dreams.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're
I had to I
totally,
had to I had to feel it.
yeah. You're totally fine to
Um
walk in your dreams. Your dreaming mind is trying to protect you. And here's what I want your dreaming mind to understand. To whatever degree this is appropriate for you, where you are, where your dreaming mind is. Your dreaming mind is fully capable of protecting you, even while you're walking in your dreams.
there's okay.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Your dreaming mind is fully capable of protecting you even while you're walking in your dreams.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, dreaming. Hey, dreaming mind, thank you. Amber's dreaming mind. We are aware of you over here on the wake in the other universe of the waking world. We're aware of you. We honor your efforts. You're doing great. It's awesome what you're doing over there.
You're really trying to calibrate quickly.
Yeah, you've done a great job. It's amazing. We love you. Please keep being amazing in all the ways that you are. Yeah.
That's amazing. Also, the way that I can feel that in different parts of my body is amazing. The reason why I said it was a bummer is because I'm friends with so many people with spinal cord injuries now, and a lot of them complain because in their sleep they're walking and they're mad. They're like, "Well, like, do you ever wake up and think, oh man, I was walking?" And I was like, wow, like my subconscious just went straight to, but that's a
Yeah, just so you know, my dreaming mind is well aware of my vulnerabilities and injuries and so forth too, and it often presents situations where I can't do things because the injury is it's conserved the understanding of my injury over time. So
Mm.
it also appears in my dreaming. And there's other weird ways of traveling that are hilariously interesting. One of them is this sort of bouncy, high, low gravity jumping, which is something one can do in this game called Halo. That my dreaming mind was like, hey, we can do that. Let's do that, right? It just jumps up like 100 feet in the air in low gravity and slowly comes back down and then does that again. And another one is this weird sort of lizard-like movement on the ground as if I'm lizarding a skateboard. So I'm rolling
That makes
along the
sense.
ground and I'm on my belly and I'm face forward and I like sort of lizard skate. And each twist, each what does it snakes do? They writhe. No, there's another word. They make the
Slither.
S. They slither. Yeah, each slither move accelerates the skating. It's very strange. I haven't done that in a long time, but I remember the first time that happened to me, I was like, "What the hell kind of thing? Where did I learn that?"
I was roller
Okay.
skating in a dream a couple nights ago, and I was doing it very, very gracefully. And I was like, well, thank you for doing that in a graceful way. At least I was having fun, but I was still on wheels.
Beautiful.
It is funny to me.
Um, okay, there's so much more. So
I I have we might not be able to tonight.
I know.
Um my original reason for wanting to connect. I didn't the snakes is just that's really been that always comes up for me. Okay. Mm, hmm. Okay. I want you to test something. Not necessarily right now, but just, periodically. There so the point in the sky where the black hole is located that we are rotating around. um I can feel it at all times, and I test it. I have an app. I think it's called Sky Guide, and you can just like move your phone around and like see where everything is in relationship to you. And I'll be like, okay, where do I feel like that gravitational pull is coming from?
Mm.
And usually pretty spot on. I don't think that's unique to me. I would imagine if other people tried it, they would realize, oh, wow, I can feel where the gravitational pull is coming from. That is interesting to me because that is also the part of the sky where Aesclepius comes from, where Ophiuchus comes from, which is a man holding a large snake.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
No, no, no.
yeah.
Because when I was trying to think up a name for a specific chapter in my essay, I of all the names of star systems, I picked that one.
Ophiuchus.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a good one.
The Ophiuchi protocol.
Well, that's where the mass majority of my astrology chart is centered right. Like I'm very not spread equally around the chart. My whole entire chart is rotating around that one gravitational point in the sky. So I have a
Hmm.
very strong pull from that portion of the sky. So I tend to also follow that. It's like it has a frequency and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go do that. Um but it's interesting to me because it's the symbol of a man pouring a snake out across the
Oh my
Milky Way
God.
towards the
Okay,
Earth.
this is insane. This is
Um,
insane.
so it's snakes all the way down,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I can't get away from that, and I don't know what that means yet, but
You said you wanted me to test something.
yeah,
What, that I can sense the direction? Is that
yeah. Like if you had
okay?
to guess, like if you can feel that gravitational pull, like so
Because
what
I would argue that I can feel it. There's a place in my body that corresponds to it, but this is a private matter that
ooh,
can't really be
interesting.
openly discussed. We will discuss
I
this
can see that.
offline. Yeah.
I can see that.
Uh-huh.
Fair. Okay.
Mm,
Interesting.
okay. I need to reorient for a moment together.
Okay.
Last time when we talked, I had an experience that was as if, you know what happens? Imagine the first time you ever do you recall the first time you ever took a psychedelic drug?
Hold on, let me think. Uh yes. Yes, and
Okay.
that's yes. It was not a lot, but that's definitely when I went, "Oh crap. External perception versus internal perception." Like, "Oh, okay." That's when I realized I was very much more internalized than maybe other people
Hmm.
that I'm around most of the time. Anyway,
A lot of people.
yeah.
Okay, so the thing that's really weird about the first time you take a psychedelic, but it does happen every time you take a psychedelic, is that it's like somebody drips a little droplet of transcendent light into the mirror of your soul.
Mm.
And it goes like bloop, and
Mhm.
then it starts to spread out on the surface and the interior of that mirror slowly. And as it spreads, time warps. And then time transforms dramatically. The feeling in the gut transforms dramatically.
Mm.
There's all these transformations that start occurring simultaneously. Dimensionality changes, time changes, what it means to have a mind starts to change. All these things changes. Excuse me, all these things change. But with us, what happened was when we spoke, very uniquely, it was as if you dripped a little droplet of something transcendental into
Yeah.
my soul. And then over the intervening span between that conversation and this one, almost everything that I did creatively had the sparkle of that droplet expanding within me, inside it.
Yes.
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 And that is so beautiful. I just want to honor that, how precious and rare this is, how profound that has been for me. Many of my recordings, I can't believe that I actually picked the right star system for one of the scenarios that I present in my essay, the Ophiuchi protocols. And it didn't occur to me that this OPH particle in Greek is snake. It didn't occur. I didn't know it consciously.
But it's a fascinating part of the sky as well. It's in there for a reason.
I know, but this is the thing, like we get guided by intelligences that aren't ours. I think one of the things that fascinates me about Hillman is that Hillman has fully submitted to such guidance.
Oh, interesting. I will say that I have as well. It's that part of the sky.
So hilarious, because I can't be sure you're not saying it's that part of this guy. Right? Aesclepius, for example, right? It's that part of the sky. Because the sky and the sky sound the same in English. They're really hard to differentiate. Okay, so now I want to tell the other time when I felt completely all one. In 2009, I had a bad day. I was stretching. I felt as if I had been subjected to a magical spell of some malevolent kind, briefly. And I was stretching and I tore my injury spot while I was stretching. And then I knew I could make it home, but I knew I probably wouldn't leave my house ever again. I thought it was very unlikely that I could heal from the injury a second time. So I walked home. So in 2002, I had the first experience of this intelligence that I call Toymaker, which is very complex to try to describe if someone asks me what it was. Because it went through phases. At first, it seemed like me, then it seemed like an alien, then it seemed like an enclave of alien intelligences, then it seemed like a cherub, a small angel, then it seemed like an archangel. It went through phases, right? And so what it is, it doesn't actually matter. I'll never know what it is. Whatever it was or is outside the possibilities of language and human lexicons and reference itself. But I had this experience in 2002 for 9 months. And in 2009, when I re-injured myself in September, by the time we got to December, something very similar started happening in my mind again. There was a secondary intelligence that was teaching me in the way that Toymaker did. And I thought, oh, Toymaker is returning. I also noticed the correspondence between tribulation, I'm in a crisis, and the activation of this extra intelligence, right? About 3 months in, I became very concerned. Toymaker had warned me. It said, it never spoke. It directly modulated my consciousness to produce effects, which is totally different from speaking. I didn't even know such a thing was possible. I think you might have been doing that when you were putting dreams in your hairdressing minds while they were sleeping. But yeah, it directly manipulated my mind, and it showed me that I should be careful. And what it said was, you haven't seen me. There are other things like me. Not all of them are benevolent. And the second thing was very much about wanting to connect to the humans. It wanted to use me, it seemed to me, it wanted to use me like a radio tower to connect to the other humans. And unlike Toymaker, there was no evidence that it loved. With Toymaker, there was evidence that Toymaker loved. And Toymaker also had a sense of humor that was really hilarious and very much not what's the right word? Had no shadow. Its humor had no shadow. It wasn't like explicit humor. Or I always preferred the comedians that could make me laugh really hard without swearing or referring to sex, for example, right? And Toymaker's humor was innocent in this way. It was beautiful and innocent. And the second thing did not have humor, and it didn't seem to love. What it had was hunger. It wanted power, right? And so about 3 months in, by the way, the first time I wrote a lot. I have all that material, and some of it's on my website, organelle.org. I don't write about the experience, rather what I learned, because I don't think humans are likely to believe what happened to me. So I rarely talk about that experience. But the second time I wrote sort of an opus, right? I wrote this essay with one essay for every letter in the alphabet. So there's like 27 or 28 essays in this thing called Skybook. And I was recording what I learned both with Toymaker and with the second intelligence. But about 3 months in, I realized that I didn't trust this thing. And it was merged with my soul, my spirit, my intellect. So I had to figure out a way to evict it. And my soul seemed to know what to do. It was a process that took many days of doing no other thing, just laying still, doing one thing, which was sort of collecting my essence into a seed and then purifying the seed so that only me was in there, right? All one, alone. And I did that. And I think this is probably what happens at death. I think there's sort of a transit body that is forged. It's very pure in a way. It can't be adulterated. So I did that. And when I was finished, then that other intelligence was gone. I don't know if I did the right thing. I had no one with whom to discuss my decisions or perspectives. I just had to do what I felt seemed best. So that's the other time when I felt all one. I felt completely alone in the universe. It was when I had composed that seed, and it was a sad feeling. It felt sad, but I did it, and it was important, I think, that I do it. I want to mention to you, because you spoke about Aesclepius and you spoke about dreaming and the snake and the healing dreams, right? My friend on Facebook, Sarah James, do you know about her?
I don't think I do.
Okay, so she's in Greece, and she is someone who's fascinated by dream incubation, the Greek rituals of Aesclepius. She's a very interesting person. I will send you a link.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's good to mention her for anyone who's listening.
Yes.
Because she does dream incubation in the places in Greece where it was done.
Amazing.
Yeah. So you can probably learn something from her, or perhaps even speak with her.
Oh, yes, I would love that.
I'm sure she would love to meet you and know of you.
Yes, I'm very interested in for some reason that's why I felt like the ayahuasca was the not modern. I mean, it's just people are doing that currently. So I thought, oh, there's also a snake relationship there too, but
What is it?
a lot of times, well, the the medicine comes from the Amazon, and there's that the snake is often what's symbolized as a lot of times people will get visions of a large snake coming when the psychedelic takes over.
You know, don't you, that it's very common in India when the yogis and gurus are sitting, what happens? You know about this?
The Kundalini?
No, the cobras come.
Oh, no.
Right? The
I didn't
cobras
know that,
come and
but I
hang
love
out with
that.
them. Yeah.
I love it. Um, so I was attracted to that because I was like, "Oh, this is a modern day Asclepian. Like it's happening right here." And they're just using medicine instead of the dream incubation rituals. But with my injury, I'm not I still have a lot of interest in pursuing some version. I think no matter what I do in life, I will be doing some version of whatever that is. So right now I'm kind of I'm just very interested in kind of recreating these rituals in modern times.
Yes, between Amon Hillman and Sarah Janes and my friend Lee Gerard Barlow, who's a mesmerist and has also studied similar things, we should be able to come up with an elixir of, I
Right.
don't necessarily mean a substance, but like a situation where we can do this.
Yeah, preferably no substance. That's
Right,
what I'm realizing
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's I'm realizing when you have a material, it just becomes part of well, it's just not it
You and
I don't
I didn't need a substance.
right.
We made a substance. This is the thing that I think the humans have forgotten. And it's something that Hillman talks about, but even he, I think, is confused. He thinks the humans made substances by introducing the venoms of snakes to their bodies.
I mean, they might have.
Those women, they scratched their skin and they dipped these bandages in complex venoms and they became immune to them. And then they could produce, their bodies became pharmacies, which, okay, brilliant. I love it. Beautiful. Yes. But what I'm trying to say is, what I want us to remember is the capacity to make substance that is not a substance. It's transubstantial. It's made with our spirit, our passions, our curiosity, our catastrophe
Mm,
sometimes, right? Together,
yes.
like
Yes.
you and I have been making, and like I have been overwhelmed by since we last spoke. Now, look, I don't want to give the wrong impression. I'm not over here obsessed with my conversation with Amber or even with you. I believe in you. I think you're so courageous and brilliant and amazing, and I want to learn with you. That's true.
Yeah, but
Um,
it's not me.
right. And I'm
It's
not
a
me either.
it's the spark. I know what you're talking about with that spark because I
Yes.
know that spark.
Yes. It's
I
not me
know that
either.
spark.
I do too. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to give people the wrong impression because I could, obviously listeners could think whatever they might suppose to think. But there's something very profound that's going on here that's beyond me and you. And in a way, it's even above the humans as a species. And this is the point where I want to ask you two questions. First, how are we doing on time in your thoughts? What do you think? How much time have we got?
I would say no more than 20 minutes. I'm
Okay,
starting to lean towards wanting to get some water.
right
Not
on.
not, immediate, but eventually.
Okay. Uh, can you get some water now?
Well,
Is it
I
gettable?
I could as a paralyzed person, it's going to take me a good 6 to 7 minutes.
Hmm. Okay, I hear you. What is your desire?
I'm good right now.
Okay. So let's talk about something strange. that we've
Yes.
hinted at a couple times. You have a tattoo.
Yes.
And the tattoo has some words underneath it, but the word mind, which I think is underneath your tattoo, do I remember correctly?
Yep.
That word doesn't mean mind, it means something more like body, doesn't it? Or have I got that backwards?
Well, I don't think you have it backwards. I think wow, I can't believe I'm gonna say this.
Go for it.
Wow.
Be brave.
Well, I also didn't quite fully realize this, but wow. There is, wow. There's an aspect of me that I experience that's not on the earth.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and that feels strange to admit, but when I'm hinting at all of these things, these symbols that I follow, or this thread or this spark, it's all the same origin point. Um, so that part, there's this common tale. It's weird. I was listening, at rehab this week. It's in pop music. You fell from the sky, like you're a fallen
Mm-hmm.
star.
Mm-hmm.
It's in us. It's in this story, and that's the origin point. That's the spark that I feel like you're talking about. Um, and so I don't fully experience it the way that you're saying it, but if I had to really zoom into the spiritual level of the experience, that would be it. It's not my primary experience, but there is an experience, there's a part of me that's not on earth. Um, and that part of me that is not on earth, I can't believe I'm saying this, is very disturbed by the way the mind is functioning in this body.
Yes. Because it's a series of traps, I
It
think.
doesn't know what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to
No,
presume
it's
things.
certainly trapped. Trapped certainly is the word. Yes.
Mm.
Yes. Yes.
And why would my organ girl Amber, be subjected to a labyrinth of painful traps? That's wrong.
Yes.
That should never have happened. Something has gone haywire.
Yes.
It's the same for Darren. Why should I've often proposed that we are like we're like the spiritual inversion of the the image of a child with a kite, right? Time space has this little string along which it descends into birth as in matter, right? The whole spiritual constellation of the origin beings and time space, they swirl around, they form this little thread, and down here on Earth, boop, out comes Darren. And Darren lives at the other end of that thread the whole time. And there's two-way communication, but Darren, they all know what's going on. Darren has no idea what's going on. He's in a series of weird traps that we often refer to with the words thinking and language.
Yes. Yes.
Concepts,
That's the experience.
concepts, and money. Those two things. Concepts and money. Commodities and tokens of reference. And why would that be true? Because Darren's nature has nothing to do with any of that. Nothing. So what happened? And one of the things that I think happened is that the two-way nature of that thread got compromised around here.
Mm.
And so now they know what's going on, but we don't. And the absence of them in us produces the traps that they are upset about.
Ooh. I mean, I'm gonna have to sit with that for a while.
Sure. So will I. I mean, I've
Well,
been sitting with
forever,
everything from
but
our last
yeah,
conversation, just
yeah.
bubbling like a little pot boiling over on the stove. So I'm looking forward to a lot more bubbling.
Well, that is why I signed up for that astrology apprenticeship, because I was like, okay, this I have to get back in relationship. But there's okay, I I'm beginning uh I'm be I'm beginning to feel like I have some concept that's it's forming. I don't know if I can fully articulate it. Oh gosh, and while you were describing it, it's like I was getting a vision of this thread, this kite, this experience. It's as if we have the memory of everything within us. Um, but there's perhaps I wonder, it feels like there's a memory where it's not happening in linear time. It's just one, and that is what that experience is. I don't know how to articulate it. Um, I feel like there's lost experiences that we are acting out, that are from our history. I really don't know how to say these things.
Oh, you're doing great. You're doing great, Amber. You got it. You just nailed it. Keep going.
Well, that's just what it feels like in
I think
my
the same damn thing. We are recapitulating waves of
yes,
historical memory that
yes.
we are unaware of that are crucial to our awakening.
And they have nowhere to go
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
Oh,
so what's hard for me is when I look at that as one experience, I'm not quite sure if it's one experience or many, like it's I don't know how many different experiences are in there asking to be brought forth. It's
oh my God. What if our lives, oh my God, Amber, Jesus, you do this all the time when we're together. It fucks me up. I want to be fucked up this way. This is like a fucking car wreck of insight, right? It's like a dumpster fire of just cascades of unforgetting. And that's what I'm after. The Greeks had this word anamnesis,
mm,
right? And what if our lives are the physical anamnesis of our origins, the story of the catastrophe, the accident that separated us from the sky, and our companion intelligences, and our lives are this story, and the story is being physically played out as us in
I
human
don't
bodies.
think there's an alternative.
Neither do I.
I don't
That's
think
why
there's
I
any other
fucking
way.
love you. Oh my God.
I
Yes.
don't think there's any other chance for an alternative. But what I think is so fascinating is I really think if you had this discussion with an experienced astrologer, the way that they can articulate, like, no, it's for sure we are being lived out through these. The reason why those myths exist in the first place is ah, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Um,
I
Waves of time space are crashing on human oceans and producing the lives that we live. And
yes.
those are waves of memory. And one of the most crucial features of that memory is the catastrophe that separated the material from the transcendental and the originary. And that catastrophe is unresolved. It's unresolved in the transcendental, and it's unresolved in the physical. And that's why the gods themselves are trapped. The gods are trapped. It might be up to us to free the gods from their trap. Like,
that is very interesting.
Do they dream? Do the gods dream? Or is that our power?
We are their dream. That's what I've heard but this the unresolved part that's really that's setting in with me because we keep having these everybody always, the world's always going to end, right? Always. So why does this story keep coming up? What is that? Where is that coming from? Why is this so alive?
The Eschaton and the apocalypse, which, by the way, let's be really clear about something basic. Every single time we wake up, the dreaming mind experiences an apocalypse, a real one. The world ends at that moment. It ends. Boom, it's gone. And not only that, the dreaming mind doesn't have like the kind the line of continuity that the waking mind establishes and defends and protects and thinks is really important. That continuity, it doesn't have. The dreaming world doesn't have that. The dreaming mind has to be composed anew each time it originates, most of the time. It's not a law, it's a principle. There are exceptions, right? You can have sequential dreams that elaborate previous themes. You can have dreams over many nights or even over many years that repeat certain themes or are connected to each other, but not in the way your waking mind has continuity over time, right? Your waking identity. So the dreaming mind knows, I think, death and apocalypse intimately. And I also think it's really curious about what brings the apocalypse. Why each morning, what is that thing on the other side of sleep that puts the dream to death? What is that? Why does that have to happen? Why? Who is that over there? Who is the dream assassin? This is my personal language, right? Who is the apocalypse bringer that pushes the button, often with violence or fear, or there are other things it can use. Explicit identity actually is one of the things that feature of consciousness uses to end the dreaming, because explicit identity is anathema to dreaming. Think about that. Over here, explicit identity is the rule, and we're totally familiar with it. I'm Darren. Of course I'm Darren. My identity is explicit. Really? You sure? How do you, why? Because the dreaming mind isn't like that at all. It can't abide explicit identity. One time my dreaming mind was like, let me show you how anathema explicit identity is. I went to an airport, which is a specific kind of situation in the dreaming mind. And they asked for my ID. And the dream just collapsed, right?
Oh.
Right? Because they're like, yeah, what's your, show me your explicit identity.
Interesting.
Okay. Go ahead.
Have you ever used a cell phone in your dreams?
Oh, this is a really important story, which I'm there's so many things I want to ask you before we wind up that I'm going to make it really quick.
Okay.
So when I was trapped in my house, I started using, I'm a technician. I studied the effects of electronic technology on human relationships and minds. And I explicitly refused to have anything like a cell phone until late 2016. I needed to study it because I had seen how the internet fucked up human minds and relationships, and I knew that the cell phone was going to be much worse. So what I got was an iPod, right? An iPod with a screen that I could run like Skype and a couple of apps on. And I used that, and that showed up in my dreams immediately. Like within a week, showed up in my dreams. Why did you ask? And what's your experience?
Because I've never successfully used a cell phone in my dreams.
Yes, ever. I think it's really important. Okay, yeah, that's such an important fuck, that's such a beautiful, important point. Remember when I said that the smartphone represents the uplink to the sky intelligences?
Mhm.
It's the representation of that uplink. And the fact that we have that and we built it as a species is very interesting and something we should explore deeply in a conversation
That is
coming.
very interesting.
Let's bookmark that for another
Okay.
conversation. But
But
I want to
how do I stare at this thing all day and I've never successfully used it in a dream? I cannot use it in a dream.
it does fuck things up. It shows up in my dreams pretty commonly these days. Um, Even after I got it, I refused to take it outside for a long time. I would only use it in the house. We'll go through all of this,
Okay.
but I do use it in dreams. Yeah, this is such a crazy topic. Okay, I want to come back to your tattoo.
Okay. Okay.
So, what does it say under your tattoo?
Says, where is my mind?
Great. And what is describe the tattoo for the listeners?
It is an angel. Its wings go up my rib cage. But the angel body does look like an alien, like bald and larger eyes, the traditional what people think of, and it's in the fetal position.
Wow. Just occurred to me that what if all the hair that the aliens have is inside them instead of on their surface? Like you.
I I I mean I tend to think of electricity a lot. I and I think that extends forever and ever and ever outside of the body.
But remember how you said that you're so much more internal than other people?
Yeah, yeah.
What if, yeah, there's something here.
I mean, I
There's
am,
something
but
here. Okay, when did you get the tattoo? And tell me anything you want to share
the
about it.
the day I turned 18. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
So there was in me this knowingness of this deep, deep depression and angst. I mean, I know a lot of teenagers are angsty. There was this knowingness that it was the mind. The mind is it's just not right. Why is this? This is not right. And I was sending, I don't know how, but in in my heart of hearts felt like one day I would be okay and I would be on the other side of that. And I was sending a message to my future self saying, don't forget me.
Wow.
Do not forget where we came from.
Mhm. So profound. Okay, so I'm going to go back to where you said something like, each of us come from a specific place in the sky. This totally reframes the nature of astrology. Humans think astrology is about using a sort of a clock like algorithm to make determinations about characteristics and situations. What if we've got that entirely backwards? What if astrology is about the recovery of the string that links us to origin beyond the earth, that is the uplink to the other intelligences, the originary intelligences that I call transcendent?
I do think that is the point of it. The many intelligences. I think when ancient civilizations had a relationship to that, they were honoring, they were being blatant about that honoring of, I think they had a strong awareness that that's where those intelligences came from. Or is that how our intelligence got programmed? I mean, I haven't been able to figure out which direction it's coming from.
The
But
most astonishing thing to me is that I finally realized something that I think I've known my whole life subconsciously, but haven't been able to say. My mind was not made for thinking. It's made for relationships.
right.
It's
Right.
made for telepathy and fucking a thing we don't even have a word for, which is the composition of communal minds with people like you.
Right.
It's
Without a
made for
doubt.
flight. It's not meant to it's not like a fish trying to swim inside a stone. It's meant to
Oh,
go. It's meant for the far vistas of possibility and anamnesis.
right.
And
Well, that explains the tattoo. I mean, that's why that being is so depressed.
right,
Right
it's
there.
trapped.
It's trapped.
It's
Yes.
trapped.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Mm.
Was never meant to be.
Like this.
Yep.
Never. Every single human that has ever lived has known the stink of the prison cell, the stink of the dungeon.
Yep. And that feeling when you say trapped, that is exactly the angst that was coming through.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. We have we have given the word remembering an entirely new meaning here today, Amber. And I mean, I'm humbled and grateful. This is so precious to me. I can't imagine having done something better with the time that we shared. I honestly can't.
I appreciate it as well. We still did not get to my snake questions, but eventually.
Let's go there soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had some realizations last night about the symbolic nature of that in regards to shamanism and the underworlds, but next time.
Yes. For now, I mean, I have plenty of energy for more, but I'm sensitive to your situation and your need for hydration and perhaps
Yeah,
just
well,
rest.
my mind is fading out anyway,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, okay. Thank you, dear heart. I'm so grateful for this time together, and I hope we can reconvene again very soon.
Thank you, Darren.
All blessings to you. May your dreams be rich and filled with healing.
All right, good night.
Good night.